So first of all, I like to break you into small breakout rooms. Let you talk to each other, say hi to each other, and then just quickly go through some biggest challenges that you've encountered in the past. It could be, for instance, in your internship, or if you haven't got any internship yet, you can also talk about your interpersonal communication challenges encountered in your college life. Okay, either way is fine. But the six problems I've listed here, they are just to inspire you. They're not really like, you don't have to limit your discussion into these six types of questions, but more than that, is there any biggest challenge you've encountered previously and you would like to share with the peers that you are having today? Okay, so after your breakout room session, I'd like to have each room to put three biggest problems you've seen in the past, okay, based on your discussion in the chat box. And then we'll kind of single out something to talk about and continue, all right? I think it seems like most of us are concerned with giving feedback or rejecting, or saying more specifically, saying no to our bosses, or managing conflict. So as you can see from all of our discussions, it's very clear and obvious, right? Communication is not simply about talking. I have to say, if you're looking at my screen right now, communication is more about mindset. If you feel like the other person is very difficult to communicate with, it's very likely that that person has a different mindset and you don't get to see their point, right? Or they don't get to see your point. And also, starting from the mindset, we're more when talking about communication, we're more likely to talking about emotional intelligence, cultural intelligence, meaning the ability of being empathetic, and the ability of maintaining relationships with others through communication. And more so, we're likely, talking about listening skills. For instance, how to listen without really debating with others, or how to get others to listen to us without really interrupting your talk, right? So those are the actual communication skills we're talking about regarding workplace. It's not really about simply about public speaking or how to interview. Those are just very limited focuses in terms of communication. Okay, so I'm very glad, first of all, you get to clarify the assumptions and the understanding of communication. And before we move into very specific questions and aspects of communication, I have three fundamental assumptions to share with you. So first, communication is joint effort. Okay, I frequently tell my students in my MBA and undergrad classes, I said, well, communication means that you need to do more. You need to do more than you probably wanted. Okay. And it requires all of the parties in this event or in this issue to do more so that we can communicate more effectively. So communication is never a solo performance. As you can see from the model here, communication is very simultaneous, and it involves your consideration of the context and the noises. The noises could be semantic noise. For instance, we speak different language, right? Or we speak different jargons that we don't get to see each other. The noises could be physiological noises, meaning that if you're very tired right now, or if you're very thirsty, you don't get to stay focused in the conversation with me, right? If you are, say, the noise could be psychological. Psychological noise, meaning that if your boss, your supervisor, is information overloaded, meaning that this person is taking too much on his or her plate, and at this point, this is not the right timing for you to communicate, because that person just doesn't get it, right? It doesn't matter how good you are as a communicator, that person in this conversation does not function very well. Okay, so communication is a joint effort in a way that we always need to consider the other person while defending ourselves in conflict, for instance. And leadership comes from communication. Okay, the the art of leadership is the art of language, to be honest. So for those of you who are concerning about your leadership skills, I would highly recommend you to start thinking about and training your communication skills, because the mindset shapes people's behavior. Mindset shapes people's ways of talking, and vice versa. If you can improve your ability of communicating, then you're improving your ability of shaping others' perceptions. Then in turn, you are shaping others, you are improving your leadership and shaping others' behaviors. Does that make sense? So the logic is functioning in this way, okay? And the last important fundamental assumption I wanted to remember is always be very strategic in your language use. So if we compare the US and the Chinese culture is very high context, meaning that we have to rely on a lot of nonverbal cues, the context and implications to understand each other. It is always the listener's responsibility to understand the implications, to read between the lines, right? But in the US culture is very low context. Low context meaning that they are always very direct, they're very expressive. I was talking to someone in a breakout room, and the one of you said it's a little bit hard for me to be very expressive and talkative in the meeting. It's very likely because of the cultural background. So don't blame yourself too much, don't push yourself too hard, but with the understanding of the cultural differences, we can always choose the language use or our word choices more strategically, that we don't have to be so expressive, but we can still make our point very clearly. Okay, so we're gonna you will see all of the three assumptions going through the entire process today in our session, but more specifically, we're gonna move into the three aspects, meaning the three main challenges we're gonna talk about today. The first one is conflict management. The second one is upward communication, meaning how to manage up, how to talk to your supervisors, how to talk to a boss. And the last part is about being strategic in the use of your language, how to deliver bad news, how to motivate others, how to give feedback, and etc. Okay. All right. So first of all, I want to start addressing managing disagreement or conflict management in a way. So I'm giving you a very short case, A and B. I will need you to read the case very quickly and carefully right now. And think about how you would answer as A, how you would answer as B, okay? I might cold call someone to be the A or B later, and then I'm gonna have you to do a conversation, okay? How if you are A and if you are B in this conversation, then start a conversation in your way first, and we're gonna, discuss the potential answers later, okay? By the way, this is a real case. This is a real case reported from my corporate training experience. For those of you who just joined, we would love to have you turn on your camera so that we get to see each other and make new friends, okay? Okay, one more minute. Think about your answers, and we'll start the role play. Okay. Do I have any volunteer to be A or B?
Maybe I can try B.
Great.
Or A.
Depends.
Okay.
Good for you. Okay, you want to try B, right?
Yeah. Or if other ones wants to try B, I can try A too. just want
Oh,
to get
that's
some practice.
so
Yeah.
nice of you. So anyone, I need another volunteer. Come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Great, Chelsea. Okay. Do you want to be, so
I can try A.
okay. All right. So Chelsea will be the A. Jiacheng will be the B. So it seems like Jiacheng will start the conversation, right? You're approaching Chelsea to question her. So let's start your conversation here.
Sure. Hi, Chelsea. I just heard the news that you made a decision that you want to hire a young graduate right out of school. I think I've seen him. He looks great, but it's I just have one concern. You see that he has a full arm tattoo, and I think hiring someone with a tattoo might, you know, be a a negative thing for the reputation of our company. And as consultants, we need to see clients, and if they see the tattoo, it may affect our business. So I just hope that you might rethink about this decision. What do you think?
Oh, thank you, Jiacheng, for bringing this concern. I understand and that it may present a negative image of our company, but again, this is all theoretical. This person, as you know, has outstanding resume, work performance, and I think that this person's work ethic will outweigh the risk. So that's why I will stand with my decision to keep this young graduate in our company.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I thought that was
No, go ahead. I thought you're gonna stop right there, but go ahead. That would be great if you can continue.
Okay, yeah. So, I understand Chelsea that he's outstanding, but the problem is that you remember last time, our clients complained that, Jack has a tattoo on his arm, and in the end, he had to clean it up. And I don't think we should, force other people to change their habit just because of our company's interest. From that perspective, I feel he might not be a good fit for our company, and our company might not be a good fit for him too. So in the end, if we hire him, then it's possible that in the short, after 2 or 3 months, he will find out that, oh, I don't like the culture here. It's so boring. I want my tattoo back, or I want to keep my tattoo. So I just feel, I would feel bad for him too. So yeah, so I really think we can rethink about it, and maybe, Mary is another good candidate. So let's maybe
Chelsea, any answer?
Well, I think from a cost perspective, I think it's a lot more expensive to hire a new grad. Since we already have this employee, why don't we just go ahead and talk to this young graduate about our concerns? Maybe she can meet us halfway and just wear full length attire that covers her tattoos. She's okay with that. Explain to her, there's this concern with a past incident, and just make sure. Yeah, I understand your concern. Making sure that she's she fits in with the culture. But I think maybe we should also include her in the conversation, so that way she has a part in what she wants to do with her appearance.
Yeah.
Okay, very nice.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Round of applause right here. Very nice. Thank you very much for your participation. And I have to say, you two are very polite to each other. If you read the case, the last sentence of B is, what in the world are you thinking? That's kind of the conversational tone there. So Jiacheng was very polite. I like it. Okay. So any comments? Comments from others? How do you think about the conversation?
So overall, I think it's pretty good. They both defend their idea for themselves, but I think I'm imagining myself to be this manager who hired the new graduates. I still will define for my opinion on this graduate. I won't agree with other staff's idea about the appearance. I will mainly focus on his performance or his overall advantage. I will say the overall advantage will overshade his appearance. And,
Okay, so I
yeah.
see. So Ethan said, I will not give up. I will defend my opinion. But I like the point that you're going to highlight the outcome and the concrete evidence, right, that can support your argument. Is there anything you would have done differently? Haley, how about you?
So I think they both have their points. They express themselves very well. And in some sense, they both are very polite to each other. They're not having a fight.
Yeah, they manage
Yeah.
their emotions very well. But is there anything
Yeah.
you would have done differently?
I guess I'll agree with Athens that maybe they can focus on the employees' performance or ability more than the appearance, or
Okay,
the
so you feel
appearance.
like concrete evidence would be better. Okay.
Yeah, concrete one.
I agree with all of you. Okay, I'm like I think all of you have done a very good job. So let me give you some practical tips. Okay, in disagreements, it's very easy for you to follow your emotional response because if you're like the other person is deny my opinion, right? This person is attacking me, even though on the surface you wouldn't actually respond in that way, saying that you're attacking me, but psychologically you would feel that way because people always want to protect themselves and they feel really good when they think they themselves are the right person. So the number one practical tip I want to offer here is that whenever you're in a disagreement, in order to communicate more effectively, ask questions first. Okay, you don't want to get ready to reply immediately with your opinion. You can ask for clarifications. So for instance, Chelsea can ask Jetson, or say the A, in the case, A can ask B, what makes you so angry? Or what makes you feel like having a tattoo is a problem, right? So B may answer, well, I think Jetson did a very good job making up the evidence. Say Jack had a tattoo before and it hurts us, our company's reputation, etc., etc. So I think asking will help you see the entire picture, the whole picture more holistically. You don't really assume the other person's intention based on your understanding. Okay, so asking question is very important, and many people tend to forget about this part. Okay, so after asking questions, I offer a 4-step principle: hear, see, conclude, and react. So hear meaning that you want to first highlight your understanding. Say, this is what I hear from you. So you're actually confirming with the other person, is this right? Am I understanding you correctly? So you don't have to like exactly follow my like sentence structure, okay? But in essence, you should always confirm, well, this is what I'm hearing. Please clarify or confirm this, my understanding is correctly. Okay, so then move to C. C meaning that you're interpreting the other person's intention. So A may ask B, or A may tell B, say, well, I see you're getting angry because you are worried about our company's reputation. Okay, so you are actually assuming the best and confirming the other person's intention is good. Okay, because many times when we have conflicts with the other person, we're always assuming the worst, meaning that we're seeing the other person hurting us. But if you can confirm first that I know you are right, I know your intention is good, so it will immediately buffer the emotional response or emotional feelings in the conversation. Okay, and the last part can be conclusion and react. So you can say, I believe that you are focusing on our company's reputation, and the story you're providing about the past experience is absolutely making sense to me. And reaction could be that I feel frustrated a little bit about, your attitude toward person with tattoo. That might cause some kind of misunderstanding in a way that people may feel like, oh, they're being judged somehow, right? So I think Chelsea offered a really good answer right here, by including that person into our conversation. We're giving that person an opportunity to voice themselves, right? So I think the role play went very well in the sense that A and B both did a very good job managing their emotions and presenting themselves, but there are some aspects we can improve better in a way that we can always validate the other person's concerns and presenting our understanding that you are assuming the best, and then reacting in the way by using I statement. If you're think about that, let's compare two statements. Okay, I believe that you are wrong, or I feel I'm not being understood very correctly. Which one sounds better? The second one, right? Because I'm focusing on my feeling. There's no way they can argue with you about your feeling, because you're the subject matter, you're the person, your feelings should be respected. But if you say you're wrong, you make me angry, so you are pushing away the responsibility to the other person, blaming them for that issue. Does that make sense? Right? So always focusing on I feeling, I feel, I believe. You're simply presenting yourself without hurting the other person. Okay? And on the opposite side, if you're interactant, if, for instance, if you're the other person in the conversation started to use you can actually use I to buffer the negative outcome. Okay? For instance, you can say, well, I feel that this conversation is getting a little bit heated, or I feel that I feel a little bit defensive feeling right here. Does that make sense? You're describing the other person's feeling, meaning that's your understanding. Then you're constantly reminding the other person that, oh, we're not feeling very good, so maybe we should stop right here and come back in 5 minutes. Okay? So that's those are some practical tips in terms of conflict management. We won't be able to elaborate too much because of the time limit. But if you have any specific questions you want to ask in terms of managing conflict, you can always put in the chat box or save the question at the end. We can answer them more specifically. Okay. All right. So the second aspect I want to address today is upward communication, meaning that how to manage up, how to talk to our supervisors, how to talk to our boss. So upward communication, in other words, is leadership communication. The technical definition is using strategic way to influence others, in the leadership style. So that's why we always attribute strategic communication to emotional intelligence and language competency. I have to say that if you don't feel very confident about your English, that might be a barrier, but it won't be the only one. Okay. Or say you don't have to worry too much about it, because once you understand how the mindset, the effective and strategic mindset behind communication, you can always use the very simple word or very simple English to express yourself. So I have two scenarios here offered to you. The first one, if you read the case very quickly, it's about rejecting. Okay, how to say no to your boss. The second one is more about persuading, or say proposing, how to propose ideas when your boss doesn't want to listen to you. So I'm gonna give you, let's say 1 minute. Okay, think about your potential answer, and let's share some ideas and see how we can improve based on your current understanding. Okay. It's fine if your answer is not perfect. It doesn't have to be, okay? The reason why you're here is to improve, so that's why it's important to share first, and then we can revise on it. So essentially, you're thinking about your potential answers as a subordinate. How to respond to a leader who is talking like that. Oh, sorry, Judy. I sent you another request. Ignore me. All right. Any answer? Any guess? Jenin, how about you? Which one do you want to pick?
So is the purpose to refuse the job or refuse the project?
Yeah, you have a leader who comes to you and make this request. How would you say no?
Oh, I see. Okay. I can do either scenario. I guess I can do the first one.
Yes.
So I would say, Professor, thank you for the compliment. I really appreciate the opportunity to learn more from this project. But before I start with the data research, I want to understand a few key points to help me do the job. For example, why do you need this request done as soon as possible? Is it because of some deadline that you are trying to meet, or is and for the data search itself, what are the key parameters? Is there any other ways we could solve for this project without doing this data research? So
playing as if the leader, okay? I'm telling you what this is important. I just need you to complete this very quickly. Can you do this? Just tell me.
Unfortunately, right now, I have other projects on hand that I unfortunately won't be able to complete it right now. But if you tell me the reason why you need this done as soon as possible, or like if we could figure out a timeline for me to make room for this project, then we can figure out a better time for me to do it. Maybe in a few days.
That's great. So essentially, you still took away this task, right? You said yes, actually, eventually to me. I'm a very aggressive boss, right? Okay, so that can be an answer, and I see it's very common. Actually, it's one of the common answers we would acquire from our participants. Any other try? Any other thoughts?
I don't know.
Joanne, how about you, as an experienced practitioner?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. So possibly I will refuse. I will probably say, yeah, Professor, I know the urgency of this project, but you know, right now I'm handling another 2 projects, and they are due tomorrow. And I don't think I have enough time to do this quick data search. So now you know my situation.
It doesn't take you so much time.
Yeah, as I mentioned, my situation is a little bit tricky because, yeah, those 2 projects will be reaching the deadline tomorrow. So actually, I need to stay up very late tonight to finish those 2 projects. So
I will let your manager know that you don't have to do that one. Do this one first. I know this one is important, and you're the best person to do it.
Yeah. So if you can talk to my another professor and persuade him to postpone the deadline for the other 2 projects, I'm glad to do this quick data search.
Very nice. So you're using your manager or your professor to refuse me, right? Okay, that's good. And that can be another answer, I would say. There's nothing wrong, okay? There's no right or wrong answer, to be honest. It's all about, your preference and your strategy. So, Judy, are you there?
Yeah, sure.
What about you? Let me ask, which one do you want to pick? Do you still want to do for the first one or the second one?
I'd like to add my comments on the first one based on my experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I think usually in this case, my answer is very similar to Jaren's. So I would say, oh, boss, thank you very much for your confidence in me. But right now I have project A that I need to deliver to the big boss like in next 2 days, and also I have project B that we need to get it out by next weekend. So can you give me some suggestions? How would you like me to prioritize those stuff on my plate?
Great. I have to say that I do have my personal preference, okay? I like Judy's answer the best because the tricky part of this question is, first of all, you don't want to use the other person's authority to refuse, because it makes that person feel like I'm less empowered, right? And it feels like I'm not the important person in your mind. Instead, you're treating the other manager's priority as a priority, and then my task is not so important to you. So I'm not saying that rejection is the wrong choice, but we can reject more strategically. So for instance, let me switch to the next one. Again, ask first, okay? I do think you want to ask questions first. Then I think Javon sort of did it, and we can kind of revise the question a little bit more by saying that, well, I'm very happy to do this project. And I like Judy's comment right here that we're validating the compliments, right? Because if your manager is giving you a task, meaning that person is trusting you. So it's a good thing. So you want to validate and appreciate the compliment first. But does it mean I need to push off whatever you're doing right now until tomorrow? And may I get some clarifications in terms of the priority? Right? So because in nowadays business, everything is important. It's very hard to say which one is not so important and which one is more important, right? But it's all about deadlines. It's all about priority. And priority is kind of determined subjectively. So you don't want to kind of be the sandwich in between two breads, right? You want to be the person who is clarifying, asking, and also highlighting the results. So you can tell your manager or the professor, whoever that person is, that maybe you're not aware right now, but I want to clarify that way. I have XYZ things on my plates, and I do want to offer my help. So could you please clarify with my manager which one is more important at this point, and so that I can focus my entire energy and attention on that one, right? So you don't want to say that, oh, go to the other person first, but you want to ask question, but using more like a question type kind of comments, okay? And also, I want to highlight one thing. While you can offer clarification, offer logical solution is another very effective strategy. If you cannot help, okay, say that the person who is asking for a favor is your coworker, not really your manager, and you don't feel like this is part of my responsibility, and you can say, oh, I'm very happy to direct you into the right person. I'm very happy to walk you to that person so that we can just take a little, like say 1 minute for you to offer that kind of logical solutions, but it's better than, oops. Can you hear me well? It says my internet not very stable. Okay? Okay, good?
We're breaking a little bit. I think now it's good.
Oh. Now it's good? Okay. Sorry, my internet is very stable. Okay, well, just let me know, okay? So usually in a conversation or in a rejection, offering logical solution is way much important than explaining yourself, because explaining yourself makes you feel like you're escaping away from this particular task or responsibility, okay? Use prediction. Prediction could be a very interesting strategy, because you don't want to use that too often, but sometimes you can kind of mix it with your communication. Prediction means that if you want to clarify with my manager, that would be better. So you use if then, right? So if you want to explain a little bit more, that it will be much appreciated. So we're actually revising the sentence structure to be more polite, but still making the point. Okay. Something you don't want to do. You don't want to use you too much and too frequently, because it sounds like you're accusing the other person. Please, you can go to the other person, or you can go to my manager to talk about this. It sounds like you don't want to offer too much, right? So it doesn't sound very well in a conversation. Do not say no directly without strategies. So you can definitely use the strategies we discussed already to revise your communication. Do not follow your emotional response, okay? This is very important in communication training. We are emotional by nature as human beings. We always have our say grown-up background that we tend to follow, especially in the Chinese culture, we tend to have trouble saying no. And that's another thing you need to get rid of. Like in the US culture, you always need to be very direct and straight to the point. Okay. Do not expect your American coworkers would be able to read between the lines and understand you. Okay. It's not going to happen. Do not react too quickly. I learned to pause at least 3 seconds over my years of teaching and researching before answering questions. Before you answer any questions, pause a little bit and think about it. It's very helpful, especially in interviews, in any kind of emergency that you have to react very quickly. Don't have to, okay? Hold yourself a little bit and think about your potential answers. Do not use filler words too much, like, that's a great question. I hate the statement, that's a great question. Everybody would say so, but you actually don't think that question is good, right? You can say, let me think about it. And then you pause, right? And give me a little bit second to think about this question. So just be more diversify your way of thinking and your way of talking. Okay. All right. So moving to the last part of today, strategic language use. This is a very complicated topic, I have to say. Today we don't get to elaborate too much, but I do hope that you get to see the highlights. So first of all, again, perception shapes behaviors and attitudes through communication. So sometimes we have a point, but we have multiple ways to express that point, right? So that's what I mean by being very strategic to express yourself. And you need to find a balance in between being direct and being very indirect. Chinese cultural background gives us the habit of being very indirect, okay? And the US culture requires us to be very direct. So I've seen a lot of examples and actual cases going too extreme to the two poles. One type of people, they, especially Chinese male, they are very likely to go to the direction of being too direct, okay? And Chinese female are more likely to go to the other opposite, being very indirect. You need to find a balance in between. So let's do a practice first. I want to see how you would manage the situation, okay? I have 2 topics, and I'm going to give you, let's say 3 to 4 minutes, you know, in, how much time do we have? 30 minutes, is that right?
Yeah, 30 minutes.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, let me, let's not get to the breakout room because it takes a little bit more time. Let me give you 3 to 4 minutes to think about a potential short speech. You know, the first one is more about think about yourself as a leader, okay? And you're going to describe the negative impacts of this pandemic to your subordinates, okay? So saying that it can be any kind of negative impacts. It can be economically, it can be financially, it can be from a human resource perspective, it can be anything, okay? But I'd like to know how you would craft your message in the way. The second topic, if you prefer, it could be between a supervisor or HR manager with your subordinate, with a person you potentially need to lay off. We all know right now unemployment rate is very high, and how can we manage this type of difficult conversations very well? So pick one, okay? Pick one and think about how you would talk to your subordinates about it. Okay, any volunteer?
Yeah, I can try the first one.
Okay, welcome.
Thanks. Hi everyone. I hope you're all staying safe and healthy. And thank you all for joining us to our first time remote all hands meeting today. So I know it's a hard time for all of us, and you know I really miss you guys, miss our face-to-face interactions, and you know none of us know when this pandemic will be over and our life will be back to normal. And I've got a lot of questions recently about, whether we'll lay off people, whether we'll have furloughs. I hate to talk about this, because I don't want to see any of those situations happen, but I do want to give you some heads up. So right now, we are losing clients. Our company is losing clients. So it's possible that, the upper management, we are having conversations about the possibilities of furloughs and layoffs. So I do want to give you some heads up, and I also want to let you know that we really value every one of you. We value your contributions to our company, and we will do everything we can to help keep your positions. And that being said, it's possible that maybe your positions will be, temporarily suspended, but we'll try our best to keep your position. And if unfortunately we cannot keep it at this point, we'll try to bring you back up when our financial situation is getting better. But again, there's not a official decision coming out yet, but I just hope you can get these ideas earlier than maybe folks in other departments, but so that you can be better prepared for what might be coming in the next. And again, I really appreciate all your work and all your efforts, even when you're working from home, and I don't take it for granted, and I really appreciate all your hard work, and I'll try my best, and our upper management will also try their best to keep your positions.
Okay, very nice. That's a very completed speech. Good job there. Okay. I want to save my comments later. Okay, I want to see some other insights first. Any other try?
So yeah, do you want my feedback or do you want my answers to the one of the questions?
Which one did you pick? Which question did you pick?
I also picked the first one.
Okay, well, let's give it a try.
Okay. Okay, thanks everyone to attend this week's office meeting. I would like to share some heads up about the decision from the management level. And our company is currently short of budget, and we are since the pandemic we haven't laid off anyone, and we value everybody's performance, and we as a small company, we value every talent in our company. But we are also in the management level, we are also trying our best to catch up with federal budget, federal PPP loans, and hopefully we can, with everybody's support, we can survive in this pandemic. But we haven't know how long the pandemic will last, and how large the impact will be. So maybe we will have some furlough or salary cuts, as nobody is expected. But as a manager, I will talk with the other CEO and COO to try our best to not lay out anybody, and but as a balance, everybody should be prepared with salary cut or any furlough. So yeah, that's about today's meeting.
Okay, very nice. So Dr. He, would you mind offering some comments? How do you think about these two answers?
Yeah, so thank you. I think both questions are they answered very well. And first of all, and for example, for Jiaqin, she first actually set up a very good background and talking about give the encouragement and everything. And after that, and she delivered this in the sense that it's not, and still give them enough positive confirmation regarding the performance whatsoever. Then he introduced this kind of bad news, a possibility of bad news. At the same time, she still gave assurance that the company is really try to do very hard and do the best to help avoid this kind of situation from happening in the future.
So is there
from that
anything
perspective,
you would offer them to do differently if you would?
okay, so for me, it's very hard actually. I could not really do anything better than what they did, I guess.
Oh, you're just being modest. Right. So let's hear some other answers to see if you offer some different answers. Would you mind sharing with us? Haley, I saw you're like writing something down there. Chelsea, Jenin, if you have any other different, or Yuting, any other different answers? Or just comment on, potential improvements. I'm curious about it. Oh, Chelsea.
Maybe I thought both of them were really great, but for part A, maybe like what you said, offer some sort of a logical solution. So maybe we can say that we're going to have organized task force, a separate task force to try to give support to those who we may have to lay off, like severance packages or things like that, help them find their next job. And also loneliness is a big problem. So maybe we try to increase mental health services for the employees so that they have some sort of a resource to fall back on.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's a really good suggestion. And to go off the line, I have 3 practical tips that you potentially can use to revise on. I would say more the language use, not really the structure. I think the structure looks good. I agree with Dr. Hu. I think you have structured or crafted the messages in a very logical way. But I did pay attention to several keywords you mentioned. For instance, Jia Chen mentioned like we're losing our clients, right? And we're trying to keep. I think both of you mentioned that we're trying to keep the positions or trying to avoid laying off people. And Ethan mentioned we're short of budget, right? And we're trying to survive from this pandemic. So I want to remind you, okay, when you choose a word, that word means something, and that word will shape people's perception. So instead of saying losing clients, we potentially can revise or replace the word by using or keeping a very close eyes on the numbers of clients we're having, right? We're monitoring the number of clients, right? We're trying to avoid the negativity, even though this is a very bad news, right? And say similarly, we can still use the same word to replace like we're losing or trying to cutting off the positions in our companies. In terms of short of budget, we can still use the same thing, right? We're monitoring our budget. We're trying all the way to increase or to bump up the numbers for our company. If there's any layoff, or if there's any concrete or say solutions to save our budget, it's gonna start from our leadership. When it comes to the entry level or frontline employees, please be aware that our leadership will be the first group of people who would, sacrifice or who would try our way to or say give up some benefits for this company, and then it's going to be your turn. Or we're coming together as a entire community to contribute to this, to contribute to our company, right? And it's one for all for one. So my point is that you don't want to dramatize the entire situation, even though it's very bad already. Okay, you want to normalize it as a part of your work routine. It's just we're now in this together. Then everybody needs to make some contributions, but knowing that your contribution will be valued. And I think you made the point there. It's just we need to revise the wording a little bit, right? We don't want to blame the pandemic too much, because it sounds like we're pushing away the responsibility. You can. I learned this, or say heard about this very strategic communication from one of my friends who is running a company right now, and they are actually cutting off the parking benefits for their employees, and they're not going to raise anyone's payment for this year. But this is how they said it. They communicate this message by comparing this pandemic with the 2008 financial collapse. Okay, so they said, well, we went through that process collectively very smoothly together, and many of you didn't have any payment raise in 5 years, and pandemic will pass eventually, and I don't believe it's going to last more than 5 years, right? Everybody know that pandemic will eventually fade over, but I just don't know, like, even it's like 1 year or 2 years, but 5 years, I'm pretty sure it's going to go away, right? So you can have this contrast and then create a perception that we're going to be fine. We've been through the worst, and this is not going to be even more worse than previously, right? And we don't want to dramatize the chaos. Similarly, we want to highlight what matters. What matters is your well-being. What matters is our company's well-being, right? If our company is going to go through this process smoothly with everybody's contribution, then we're going to back to normal very quickly. So I think that's why I really like Chelsea's comment right there, highlighting the facts, highlighting the concrete solutions that's going to help the company be better. So eventually, this practice is to tell you that your word choices matter, okay? Your word choices create the reality, creates the perception people have. And if you can pay attention to that and improve your use of language, you're going to eventually shape people's perception about certain issues or events, and eventually shape their behaviors to increase your leadership, okay? And we've been talking about being direct and indirect. These are two examples that can show you what does it mean, okay? Could you please tell me, by reading these two sentences very carefully, what's wrong with them? First of all, tell me, is there any grammar mistake?
No.
Is there any grammar mistake?
No.
No.
No, right? So grammatically, it's perfect or it's good, right? But I would say it's the biggest problem with these two sentences or two ways of the expression is being too indirect. Could you please tell me where or which part of the sentence is too indirect? That doesn't really fit into the American cultural rules.
So for the first sentence, it's a part, so I think, that makes it indirect, because that sounds not confident.
Okay, so you think we need to get rid of I think and make it like my clients complimented my performance, so I'm a good leader. Be confident. You don't know.
I would switch the order. So I'm a good leader, and the result of me being a good leader is that my clients complimented my performance.
Perfect. Okay, so you're absolutely right about it. In American culture, you always need to make your point first, then you go to the explanation, right? So I'm pretty sure you're very familiar with this kind of statement. It's a typical statement that will show up in the interview, right? But when you express yourself or when you make a proposal, you always need to define the main problems at stake, or you always need to define the main point. What's your key point there? The entire explanation is about being a good leader, right? Why don't you make it first to highlight it in advance, right? And then you go to the explanation. So what about the second one? Anything wrong? Which part is being indirect?
It's
I guess
also
I'm not
another
sure.
problem, yeah. So put the second part first, and then I would get rid of the word still.
Wait, so tell me your revision eventually. What's the final outcome?
Jim demonstrates high communication skills, although the course is very difficult.
Great, very good. So the reason I'm putting out these two sentences or these two cases is because these are some expressions based on Chinese cultural background. Okay, if you translate them back to Chinese, they make perfect sense. Right? There's nothing wrong about it. And for instance, the first one, first you start with the explanation and then eventually go to the point. You go to the final point. That's a typical Chinese way of expression. Okay. And the second one is more about the sentence structure. It's not really about anything, the logic. So if you put despite that in the first, you're giving a premise first, and then you get to the point at the end, right? So you need to reverse the order to be more direct. So that's why I said it has to do with your language competencies at the same time. But if you pay attention, you can still use the simplest English to express yourself and be very effective. Okay. All right. So the last part of my practical tips, so I have 4 minutes left, is actually, I'm repeating myself one more time. Define, explain, and relate. For those of you who have attended my sessions previously or listened to my speeches before, you know about this principle, DER. Define means define your main problem. Define the questions or the problem at stake. And then you group your arguments into a logical order. And there are several ways to explain your main problems or main arguments. Okay, you can use time order. If there's a causal relationship, first what happens, then what happens, right? You can use a structural order, meaning that you're breaking one question into several aspects. My students in the spring semester did a risk management consulting project, and I think they did a wonderful job by breaking risk management, this concept, into several aspects, and they presented a very holistic proposal to my partner. That's a very great example of using DER. Define what does it mean by risk or risk management, and then they went into smaller aspects. Okay, and the last part is about degree order, presenting supporting ideas in rank order of importance, most to the least important. And relate is the most important part in this principle. You always need to relate your arguments back to your audience. So when you feel it's very difficult to persuade your boss when they don't have the time to listen to you, you always want to start by asking questions. Ask exactly what's the end goal they are expecting out of you. Okay, you may encounter some situations previously. For instance, your boss gives you an order or task, but later on he or she just turn over their own words, right? They went against their own words. They go like, oh, no, I didn't mean to that. So you feel like very frustrated. Why are you changing all the time? But I think the key issue right here is to always ask for the end goal. What's the end expectation there? It's not really the current issue. Like, I really hate to give my students suggestions in terms of, oh, is it right or wrong to pick this topic? I said there's no right or wrong. It's all about making an argument about it. So my end expectation is to have a very good and persuasive argument, not really about which argument you're picking. Okay, so learning to ask the right questions is very important, and being very direct about your delivery. Okay, so very quick summary about today. We talked about communication. What exactly is communication in nowadays workplace? And we talk about 3 challenges in communication: conflict management, upward communication, and the last part is about being strategic in your language use. And we offer some practical tips, and you did very well, all of you, okay, who contributed to today's session. Wonderful job, and I appreciate your contribution.